Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webcast, Making the Grade, Site Design Workflows for Building Designers. Our presenter today is Daniel Rosenberg. He's a solutions engineer with Hagerman and Company. We're also joined by Chris Weatherford, who will help field questions today. Chris is also a solutions engineer with Hagerman and Company. Before we get started, I want to let you know that you're in listening only mode. If you have questions during the presentation, you can type them into the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and Chris can address them as we go, and then Dan will address them at the end as well. As you exit the webcast today, you'll be prompted to fill out a survey, and we ask that you take a few moments to fill that out. This webcast does qualify for one AIA continuing education credit. If you would like to receive this credit, just leave your AIA number in the appropriate question field found in the survey. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Dan.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ashley, and thank you all for joining us today. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know we're going to be doing a lot of demonstration stuff today, so I figured in lieu of PowerPoint, we'll just jump right into the software. So we're going to cover, for the first part, a lot of the Site Designer subscription plugin for Revit, and then the second part is going to be some cool things we can do with our site design using Dynamo. So with that, everyone should be able to see my Revit screen now, and I'm going to just go ahead and start a new project from the default architectural template and let that run for a minute here. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the Site Designer plugin for Revit, and it has very mixed reviews, and a lot of people have dismissed it, and some of that is what I would like to cover today, maybe show you a little bit of the pros, a little bit of the legitimate gripes, but I really feel like it does some amazing things that Revit cannot do out of the box. So that's what I'm here to show you guys today. So we are actually, for the Site Designer portion of our demonstration today, we're going to be using Revit 2015, and then once we switch to Dynamo, we'll be doing 16. And the reason we're doing that is because they haven't really released the Site Designer plugin yet for 2016. So with that, I've got a basic out-of-the-box default file started here, and I like to do just a little bit of setup before I get going. So since we're going to be doing site design, it makes sense to go to a site plan. So if I click on this, we're in our site plan, and what I want to do is go ahead, right-click, duplicate this view, and turn it into an existing floor plan. So switch the phase to existing, and there we go. All right, so once we've got the Site Designer plugin loaded in, you get a whole tab, and I brought Mario, America's favorite plumbing consultant, with us today, as always, to help us out. So if you've loaded in the Site Designer plugin, and I'll show you where to find it in a little bit here, if you click on the tab, you get an entire ribbon dedicated to this tool. And it's very intuitive. So when you launch this, where do you start? Well, by intuitive, I mean you start over on the left side with importing, setting the base topo surface, locating the tools, and you just kind of work your way to the right. So that's kind of how we read, left to right. That's kind of how Site Designer works, left to right. So the first thing that Site Designer adds that is just a brilliant workflow piece that didn't exist out of the box with Revit is the ability to import a Land XML file. Now, this is great because a lot of civil engineers will be able to export a Land XML file from Civil 3D, AutoCAD Civil 3D, and if they've defined a surface within that file, we can import that and turn that into a Revit topo surface. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that right now by clicking Import Land XML, and if I click this little browse button here, I can find a Land XML file that I've got from one of my civil engineering buddies. Click on that. All right, so this is a large file, so this will take a few seconds to import, and I've got some other talking points while this runs. Like I said, we skipped our PowerPoint, but I'll fill in some important information when we let this run. So with this box, it's telling me you can import a topo surface found in the Land XML file. My civil engineer friend has defined that for me. We don't have any alignments yet, so I'm going to skip that for now. And the positioning, we'll just do center to center. Click OK, and it looks for the available topo surfaces from the file, and this is the ones that are defined in that Land XML file. Click OK. Now it's asking us, what do we want to do with this surface in Revit? We're going to name it existing, and it's going to go on phase created existing. Perfect. So I click OK and let that run. This is a pretty large file, but it's got a lot of varying terrain, so I think it's worth showing. So we'll let that run for a few seconds. And while that's running, I should point out that you can download the 2015 version of Site Designer from your accounts.autodesk under Product Enhancements. For 2016, you can go to Autodesk Apps Exchange, and I'll point that out maybe the next time we run through a process here. A few of the other things that I want to cover with this are, it's really not the most user-friendly plugin, and by that there's a few gotcha items that you'll run across while you're working with this, and I want to point a lot of those out as we're going along. So some of these I'm going to walk into intentionally, and some I'll forget about and point them out as we go. So a lot of the tools in this software take 5 to 7 minutes to run. So we're not going to sit here and watch those run. I've also got a demonstration file I'll show you in a few minutes, and that will show all the features. But I really just wanted to spend some time up front here and show everybody the setup, because I feel like that's okay. We're done with that. There's so many initial hurdles to get this going that once you can plow through those, you'll really have some success with this. So it says the import process is done, but where did it go? Well, this is one of those gotcha items. If you click on the edit button for view range, our site plan view range is set to 200 feet, but I know my terrain goes up a little higher. So if I switch that to 400 feet for the top range and cut plane, we can now see it. If I double click my mouse, we've got this existing piece here. All right, so now if we go to our new site plan, we're going to have to do the same thing here. We're going to have to check our view range, put it to 400 feet, click OK, and we can now see that existing piece of topography. So that's the first huge piece of functionality that this software adds. We now have the ability to import a surface from Civil 3D. Okay, so now remember how I told you this is very intuitive? It works from left to right. So we've already imported our Land XML file. I should point out at this point, you don't have to do this step. If you've already got a piece of Revit topo surface modeled in from your standard massing and site tools, that's perfectly fine. So you might have just a regular piece of topography that you've already got. The key here is to make sure that you've put that on an existing phase. Because what we're going to do now with step 2 here is set the base topo surface. And this is a very big point of confusion for many users. It confused me when I first started out. It took me a while to kind of understand how to get it to work. So what you have to do is take an existing piece of topography, and when you set the base topo surface, Site Designer copies that existing piece, puts it on a new phase, and that is the piece of topography that's going to be manipulated. It's going to leave your original one on the existing phase and not touch it. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's click Set Base Topo Surface, and we get this dialog box right here. It's telling me I can choose any of the existing topo surfaces. This is the one that we imported from the Land XML file. If I had any other ones in here, they would be listed here, and I could select them. Or you could also click Pick and just select it from your model. But I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And it's going to tell me or prompt me for what I want to name the new surface and what phase it needs to go on. Just click Apply. And this is another one of those things that might take a couple seconds. And while that's running, I should point out that the software does come with a very good user guide, but it kind of gets swept under the rug. When you do the installation, it prompts you to open the file, and at that point, if you don't save it somewhere convenient, you might not ever be able to find it again. So while this is running, I'm going to go ahead and show you where it's located. If you go to My Computer, C Drive, Program Data, Autodesk, Application Plugins, you're never going to remember this. So when you get the pop-up, just go ahead and save a version of it to your hard drive or to your My Documents or desktop. So it's got this great manual, and almost nobody reads this, but if you do, you'll see how to do everything you could ever need to know for this plugin. So close that. It looks like our base topo surface has been set. So here's another pitfall that happens especially with me when I first started using the software. I would start to use these locate tools, and I wouldn't be selecting the proper piece of topography here, because what's happening is my phase filter is showing all. So I'm actually seeing two identical pieces of topography overlapping each other. So to fix that, change my phase filter to show new, and then I can be sure that this is the piece that I want to work with. So right now, everything is completely set up as needed. One other thing that you might need to do is click on your massing tab and tell it you want to show mass, because all of the Site Designer elements will be created as a mass item. All right, so with that, the next thing that we would do working from left to right would be to add in some of these features. We've got soft terrains, streets, retaining walls, sidewalks, but this is interesting. Look, you've got these same icons repeated over here. So this is another one of those confusion items for me at the beginning. The difference is that you have to locate the items first. Then and only then can you use these icons to modify them. All right, so an interesting workflow item for Site Designer is that it works best if you base your streets and soft terrains and all these features off of existing model lines. So to do that, I usually just sketch in a model line. Let's say I want my street to do something like this. Look what happened here. I don't see it. So one other tip I tell people is use a wireframe view. Draw your model line in here. So let's say I want my street to do something like that. Let's go ahead and click on the street tool. And if you look at this, these are all the options that you have for creating a street. These are the default ones that are loaded in. There's plenty more in the library, but and then you can edit these as well. So you can add more lanes if you want. You can do a couple different things here. You can have your street relative to the surface and specify an offset if you want a 4-foot offset from the grade, or you can do a constant elevation. So I'm going to do that. And if you've drawn in model lines here, go ahead and make sure to click Create a Copy. That way it won't get, or it will get embedded into the sketch, but you'll also have a copy for future reference. And then it says use existing host line. That's referring to the model lines that we've drawn in. Alternatively, you can draw host lines in by clicking on the screen. The problem with that is it's not very scientific, or it's not very exact. That's why I like to use these model lines. So I'm going to cancel out of that, because if I clicked create, it would take 5 to 7 minutes to generate. So if I switch over to this one that I was working on this morning, I've actually modeled all the features that I wanted to show you guys today. So if we look at this, the great part here is this street that I added in. Let's go ahead and look at this at 3D. It added in a street at a constant elevation here and automatically graded the site for me. And this is just one of those things that would take hours and hours and hours to do normally, and would probably not look anywhere near as accurate as something like this. If I cut a section through here, let's see what this looks like. So I don't have mass showing right now, so if I click Massing in Site, turn on Show Mass, we can now see the street, curb, gutters, and the topography. So that's really the street tool. You can see I've got a curve in this one, and I've also added an adjacent street, and it can put in an intersection pretty nicely. So the street tool is pretty self-explanatory. Some of the other features that are pretty nice are this soft terrain. I didn't really know what that was when I started working with the plugin, but what it does is it takes the grade and makes a smooth transition across the selected area. So if I switch to the existing, you can see what it looked like beforehand, and this is what it looks like now. Some of the other features, this is a sidewalk right here. Actually, let me do a hidden line view. There's a difference here. We've got one that shows the breaks in the sidewalk and one that's continuous. That's because my model lines that created this sidewalk were actually 5-foot segments. You'll have a little more success breaking it out into segments like that, especially if you've got varying terrain. It'll break it up a little more intuitively. So the model lines were just one continuous sketch. The other really cool thing would be the retaining wall. So this retaining wall follows the topography with a 15-foot offset. This one has a constant elevation, and I've taken it a step further. Actually, let's look at this in 3D. So this retaining wall follows the topography with a 10-foot height. This one has a constant top elevation of like 290 feet. And I've even gone as far as making another building pad right here, so I get a nice flat piece butted up against my retaining wall using the soft terrain feature. So let's see what that looks like in section. So this only took a few minutes to accomplish. So we've got two things going on here. We've got a retaining wall and we've got a soft terrain all modeled right here. All right, so I think the last thing I want to show you guys with this part of our demonstration is let's go ahead and drive down our street. Watch this. If we make a nice camera view here from our street, stretch it out. Oh, what did I do? I'm way under it. Okay, fatal mistake. Okay, watch this. Camera view, set it to 266. Much better. There we go. Let's do a shaded view. And a lot of people didn't know about this, but you can go over here, click on a full navigation wheel, bring it over here, click the walk button, and drag ever so slowly away from that black dot and blue halo, and that will control the speed and direction. So we're just jogging down our street here. There's our, stop and look at that intersection right there. You can see the topography going around our bend here. And you can see the side sloping up. That's all been cut into the topography. And I stopped my model line right here. That's why you see the abrupt ending there. But let's go ahead and take a look around now and look back where we came from. Looks pretty nice. One other thing I want to show you guys, if we go to our 3D view, click on this piece of topography, go down here, it tells you the net, cut, and fill. So that'll just give you a nice idea of how much dirt you're moving around on your site. All right, so with that kind of ends the site designer portion of our demonstration today. I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to Revit 2016, and there's an interesting problem that I had, and this is something I've been working on for a while. Let's go ahead and open up my site plan here. Let that run. So this is something that I've struggled with historically. Let's say I've got a building here on a site, and I want just an organic looking field of trees. That's something that I really haven't been able to accomplish. I've gone as far as placing dozens of trees one at a time on the site, and it still just doesn't look exactly the way I want it to. I want just a random spread of trees. So that wasn't really possible for me until Dynamo. So let's go ahead and take a look at this in 3D. We've got a little house on a flat portion of our site, and we've got just a simple topo surface here. So how does this work? Well, click on Add-ins, click on Dynamo, and once that launches, we can click New and create a new node here. So you'll see there's some background geometry back here, but in the foreground, I don't know if you're familiar with Dynamo or not, but basically what we do is we can create nodes here. We select nodes from this library, and that will place them in our script area here, and you just string the nodes together one at a time, and then when you run your script, it forces geometry back into Revit. So that's what we're going to do in the next few minutes here. So where do I start with this? Well, I want a random set of numbers. So let's see if we have a node for random. So if I type in random, we see we've got a node here called random list. Let's go ahead and add that in. Now, I could search for a number node, but if I double click, that adds some design script here, and I can just tell it manually what I want. I want 100 pieces. So every node has an input or an output or both. So look what I can do. I can click on here, feed that 100 into the amount here, and it looks like nothing happened, but I can see if something is happening by looking for my watch node. Put that in here. This will take all the info that's being generated on a random list and show me where that goes right here. So the nice thing about that is I've got 100 random numbers right here. But the next thing I need to do, and there might be a better way of doing this, but the way I've figured out is I know my site is 400 feet by 400 feet, and these numbers, the set of numbers here is between 0 and 1. So if I put in another code block here, multiply those numbers by 400, that should fill out my site. So if I say 400 times X, That gives me an input variable, and I can connect this here. And I want another watch node, so I click on that, Control C, Control V. I'm going to have to disconnect it there or reconnect it here. All right, now we've got some numbers we can work with. All right, so I've got my random numbers here. What do I want to do with them now? Well, what I really want to do is create a set of points. So let's see what kind of point generator we've got over here. Click on points. Let's see. Yeah, that'll work, X, Y, Z. So it's thinking right now. It actually, by default, treated these as zeros since they're undefined and added that point right there. So I'm going to feed this into the X, and look what happened. It started populating these numbers. If you click on this button down here and zoom out a little bit, we can see all of those. Switch back over to enable the code. All right, so we need some values for Y. This is great. Watch this. I can click on this, do a selection box, hit Control C, Control V, and then feed this into the Y. And now I've got a random set of points. There should be 100. Let's say I wanted 75 trees. I could change that to 75 and it would give me 75. So what are we going to do with this now? All right, well, we've got our points, but now we need that surface. So how do I get that? Well, let's do this. Let's do select element, select model element. Be careful here not to select elements. We just want one element. And if I click select, I'll switch over to Revit, click on my site, go back to Dynamo, and if I zoom in here, we can see it's got that by its unique model ID. Now what do I need? Well, if I click on, so I need to take that piece of topo surface model geometry and turn it into Dynamo geometry. So luckily, there's a package for that. If you click on packages, search for a package. This takes a minute or two to sync, but I've already downloaded the package I'm looking for. Basically, once this syncs, you just type in, I'm looking for a node for topography, so if you just type in Topo, topography.surface, that's what we're looking for. I've already got it on mine, so I can feel free to search it. Topography surface, and then just feed that in here. And it adds in my topography here. All right, so that's great, but what do I need to do with it? All right, get Mario to help us out here. So all these points that are down here, I need to move these up to this surface. All right, so switch back over here. Go to, I need a node that will project these points onto that surface. So I type in point, project. Now I'm getting somewhere. So let me point out real quick. I've got this set to automatic. So anytime I connect some nodes here, it runs automatically. I could also switch it to manual, and then I have to click the run button. But let's just continue here. I can feed my points in here, connect my base geometry here, but I also need to tell it which direction it needs to go. So luckily there's a node for the Z axis. And as soon as I connect that, it's going to copy those points up to that surface. All right, so that was a lot of work. Why did I do that? Well, what do we have here? Now what do we need to do? Well, we need to place some Revit trees. So to do that, if we type in family, let's look here. We've got family symbol, create by name. Let's see, is that the one we want? By point. There we go. So feed that in, point there. And the next thing we can do is search for family symbols. Family types, let's see. So this node is really great. What this will do is this looks at our open Revit file, finds any piece or any Revit family that's been loaded in here, and will allow us to select that. So what did I say I wanted to do? I wanted to do some trees. So I like this Scarlet Oak 42 feet. I'm going to choose that. Okay, now this is where it's going to get fun here. If I feed this into here, this should do it. Let's switch to Revit. Awesome. We've got a set of random trees. Let's go ahead and look at our site plan. So we've got a few maybe placed in some areas where we might not want. So to fix that, before I do that, let me show you something. If I select one of these trees and click delete, watch what happens. It comes right back. That's because we've got the Dynamo script running set to automatic in the background. So it's really driving the geometry that you're seeing on this screen. So if I click one of these and just delete it. Yeah, and let's take a look here. Let me show you something. So you can see that these are all placed on that surface. But let's go ahead and take this a couple steps further here. That's great. That's just one type of tree. What if I want more trees? Well, I can select my entire script here. Control C, move over here, Control V, and actually, let's switch this to manual. There we go. Okay, so maybe instead of the deciduous oak 42-foot tree, I want some dogwoods or something, and maybe I don't need 100. So say we got dogwood here, and I don't want 100. Maybe I want 75. All right, let's paste another one. All right, so maybe over here, I want Japanese maple, maybe 90, we'll do 85. Maybe that'll do it. Let's paste another one. So let's say this one we want Did I do an aspen yet? I can't remember. Let's do that. We'll do 90 of those. All right, we'll do one more small tree. Let's do, there we go. I don't think I've done that one yet. All right, very good. So now let's go ahead and run that. This should take a few seconds. You can see it clunking through it. So we've got tons and tons of trees in here. Let's go look at the site plan. So if I go ahead and delete the trees out that I don't need, that are overlapping my building site, that's really all I need to do. If I look at this in 3D, let's take a realistic look at that. It's going to take a minute because it's got a lot to chunk through here. And there we go. So this is just huge for visualization. Be really useful for presentations and very quick. Very, very quick and easy to do. So with that, I think I was shooting for 11:45. We're a couple minutes before that. So let me show you one other thing in Dynamo that sometimes I do. Instead of using a code block here, I can use an integer slider, number slider here. So instead of this guy, we can slide this. Oh, I meant to get the integer slider. Let's get that. Yeah, there we go. Feed that in. And this can go up to whatever number you want. If you click the down arrow, you can set the minimum and maximum. So just a lot of fun stuff. The sky is the limit with Dynamo. I'm using it for site design today. Tomorrow, I might use it to place a random set of desks in my project. You can use it for so many other things, and I guess that's really all I wanted to show you guys today. So I think we'll go ahead and open it up for Q&A.
Okay, Dan, the only question that we have so far is, will you have the DYN file or a screenshot available so that people can kind of look at what you did with Dynamo there?
Yeah, here, let's see if I can do that right now. Maybe I can get this node here. Hey, Chris, do you know if I copy that into the chat window, if it will go through? If I do a screenshot of this?
Possibly so. I've some of them work, some of them don't.
Yeah, let me see if I can get a good big view of this. Let's see if I can get the text out. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. Copy. Let's see if this works. Where is my chat window? No, it looks like not. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe if I can put it in handouts. No, I don't know. We might have to add that in later. But if you want to do a screenshot right now, I'll leave that on the screen so you can see it. And actually, oh, you know what? One other thing that I want to mention is this presentation that you've seen today, I did a practice run and recorded it on my Screencast page. So that's even better, screencast.autodesk.com. And if you type in Site Designer, and you should see some of my screencasts. If you click on my name, that lists all the screencasts that I've uploaded, and you'll see the video here, Random Set of Trees in Revit with Dynamo. Click on that. You'll be able to watch it. It does the exact same thing that I showed you. And actually, I've got a series of videos that show setup with Site Designer. If you do watch the video, make sure you leave a nice thumbs up for me in the, sorry, shameless plug here. There's a little like button. Go ahead and like that. And feel free to share the videos. So let me send you a link to that. Maybe that will show up in the chat window.
Yeah, that's a good way to do those, Dan. We've also, and if you look in your chat box, there's the link to that website to get the screencast. We have another question here. With Site Designer, is it possible to do a street or sidewalk that has a slope that is not parallel to the topo surface, as opposed to having a constant height?
You know what? I think if you select the model line, you can control it that way. So if your model line, yeah, you know what? I've done this before. I think it has to do with the alignment lines. I'm pretty sure you can do it that way. If your model line is higher at one end or lower at the other one, I'm pretty sure you can do it that way. You can also modify it, and I think you can control it that way after you've created it. In fact, I'm not going to let that run because it'll kill Revit, but let's take a look at that. So again, we were using the locate tools. You'd have to use the modify tool. So if you click modify street, then it would allow you to select a street. I think you have to tab to the street line. This gets difficult. There we go. So yeah, this brings up the modification window. And then you would mess around with the elevation, and it gives you some functionality there. But I don't want to kill Revit. All right. Any other questions there, Chris?
No, that was the only two that we've had here. Lots of neat stuff there. I know that's definitely tools that I wish I had several years ago when I was working in a large firm.
Yeah, one thing that I want to stress is that it's not, Site Designer is not the perfect solution for, it's not the end all be all for site design, and it's kind of a bummer that it hasn't been moved forward for 2016 yet, but it really does some great things that we just weren't able to do without it. So it's worth its quirks just for that. So hopefully some of this functionality will get incorporated into the software. And that's, I guess, yeah, that's really all I want to say for that. But I guess we'll keep it open for a few more minutes for any more questions that might trickle in.
Sure, and I'm monitoring the questions box. We've got a few more minutes. If anybody thinks of anything that you wanted to ask, Dan and I will be here for a few more minutes. Okay, I don't have any questions so far. I guess at this time we can go ahead and turn things back over to Ashley.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. This will conclude our broadcast. If you think of additional questions later on, you can just simply reply to that GoToWebinar reminder you received, and we can get those to Dan. Once again, we do ask that...
Hey, Ashley, let me jump in real quick.
Oh, sure.
Dan, can you show where the download is for the plugin?
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Yeah, for Site Designer, you'll go to accounts.autodesk.com. That's for 2015. So you'll log in, sign in, and while that's going, for 2016, hopefully in the future, you go to apps.exchange.autodesk.com. So you can find all sorts of apps here. Let me put both of these links on here. Thanks for pointing that out, Chris. That's
sure. We had a question come in, and I just wanted to address it because I don't think we covered that one.
Yeah, good point. Because that's what I get for skipping the PowerPoint there. Okay, so that link is for the Exchange apps, and then I think most of you are familiar with accounts.autodesk.com. I don't think I need to send out a link for that. But anyway, once you're here on the Apps Exchange, you would just search for Site Designer, and it'll come right up. Dynamo, that probably comes installed by default on 2016. If you can't find it, you can go to dynamobim.com. Let's find that link. There we go. You can see how fast our internet is today. So here's a couple links, rapid fire, spitting these out for you guys. And actually, dynamobim.com is a very important site to use because there's daily builds. So if they get released, if you want to download them, right now they're up to 0.8.2. It's still in beta because it's not even at version 1 yet. So yeah, Chris, you have more?
No, I was just going to. We had a question on how a attendee can receive their AIA credit. I'll let Ashley address that one.
Yes, if you would like to receive that credit, there will be a question in the survey. As you close down, the survey will pop up, and there will be a question that you can leave your AIA number. And if you do that, then I will go ahead and submit that for you all.
Okay, we don't have any further questions. I think we're free to go ahead and wrap up, Ashley.
Okay. Once again, do fill out that survey and leave your number if you need the credit. And it does look like there was another question. Do you guys want to answer it offline or?
No, we can take it.
Okay.
Yes, we've got a question concerning, it's somewhat related to Grasshopper. They say that they're familiar with baking in Grasshopper. Does Dynamo do this, or is running the script the same thing? Kind of a different terminology. Also, once the script is run, are the models linked or permanently in the Revit model?
Okay, so the grasshopper thing, everything you saw today was strictly Dynamo. No grasshopper involved whatsoever that I'm aware of. I'm not sure how this node right here was generated. It came out of the packages, but everything else is default to Dynamo. And then the second part of that was about whether it's permanently linked. Well, while the script is running, it's controlling that Revit geometry. As soon as you close Dynamo, this geometry will stay, and it's in there. So, yeah, you save your Revit model and open it up tomorrow. These trees will be exactly where you left them. Now, it does get dicey because if you open that script up and ran it again, it's going to add in a whole new set of trees in another random spot, and you'll still have the other ones that were in there. So just something to keep in mind there.
All right, very good. And I think we had just kind of more of a comment than a question. Said the custom nodes are more or less Python scripts that are turned into nodes, and not all that familiar with that particular function. So.
Okay. Yeah, very good. All right.
Okay, well, I will go ahead and end the broadcast today, and we thank you for attending, and have a great day, everyone.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.